potentially about working with him. I want to know one thing though, because when we were in Dubai, you were talking to Joshua potentially about working with him. What do you think Joshua would have been in that fight if he would have come and worked with you for 6 months at your camp?
First, he'd learn a lesson that you don't run up on a wounded animal, because a wounded animal is a dangerous animal. You know, you can catch a squirrel. If you hurt that squirrel and you got to try to go grab him, the squirrel gonna fight you harder than he ever would have if he was on his own. So you don't run up on a wounded animal. There are so many lessons that he could have learned from me that would have probably saved his life in that fight. The mistake he made for me, the reason I didn't want to get into the debacle was because when I asked him about it, he talked about it and he said he wanted to come see me. So I said, okay, but then when I talked to him again, he was out with Derek James and Earl Spencer's guy. I said, you know what, if y'all getting along good, don't even worry about it, because I don't want you to be confused.
And there is Roy Jones Jr. as he explains what he could have done to help aid Anthony Joshua in that fight with Daniel Dubois. And me counterpunching what Roy had to offer, the running up on a wounded animal was a very good analogy based on the fact that he had hurt Daniel Dubois with 2 right hands, an uppercut in the 4th and a couple of right hands in the 5th that changed the duration of the fight for a split second. But he was overzealous. He became that same guy that tried to finish off Andy Ruiz and got caught. He was that same guy all over again. If you guys don't recognize the patterns with AJ, being hurt or whatever, he was still trying to get the job done. Just like he was trying to get the job done with Andy Ruiz, he was trying to get the job done with Daniel Dubois, because he knew what he had did to Dubois. He knew Dubois was hurt from that punch, because Dubois just that leg gave a bit, and then he just kind of stood there and he started to retreat. And that was the first time really in that fight that happened. So, of course, the adrenaline was spiking through the roof for AJ. But as Roy told him, like, hey, you don't run up on a wounded animal. But then here's the thing. When would he have had time to tell AJ that at that time? You know what I'm saying? Because he got knocked out the same round. There was no opportunity for whoever was in the ring to tell him, like, hey, man, keep that guard up, good right hand, or, you hurt him. No, it was over before anybody could instruct him on running up on a wounded animal. So, yeah, it's true. I do agree. But at the same time, it's not realistic what Roy's saying, because Roy wouldn't have been able to do that. You see what I'm saying? He wouldn't have been able or had the ability to tell AJ, instruct AJ, guide AJ, aid AJ to not to do what caused him to get knocked out. Okay, now other things, sure, I agree with it, he could have done to help Anthony Joshua. That's either here or there now, but still, I think that's what that was about. However, I'll say this, with him going with Derek James, since this is a coulda, woulda, shoulda type situation where Roy said if he would have or could have or should have, came over there with me, he would have learned a lot more. Well, it's safe to say he would have probably practiced what Derek James taught him also while he was with Derek James, because Derek James wouldn't allow AJ to do that's throw one punch and leave my other guard down type bullshit that he was doing. Derek James wouldn't have allowed that at all. He would slap you in the face with that mitt. And he would be hard, just to wake you up like, okay, that's how you got hit, because you're more focusing on power, but you're not focusing on technique. Okay? And understanding how your defense comes into play when trying to knock someone out. And I think that's one of AJ's worst problems. He tries to go in there and close the show in certain times, and he might have still been discombobulated, right? But I say the same thing, though, would have happened for Roy Jones that happened to Derek James. Why? Because, for one, Roy Jones would want Anthony Joshua to be in Florida or wherever he trains. He wouldn't want him to be in England. I don't think Roy would even came to England. You know what I mean? Roy probably would have wanted him wherever his other fighters are. So I don't even know if that's a set in stone, like, him saying, I could have did so much for Anthony Joshua to save him, to save his life in that fight. Well, here's the thing. if he left Derrick James the way he left Derrick James based on convenience, why wouldn't he do the same thing to Roy Jones Jr.? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think the same things would have happened. I don't think that Roy would have did anything different than Derrick James. Derrick James was like, hey, no hard feelings, but I got fighters over here I need to train, not just you, so. And the last I heard, Roy is training who? He was training Chris Eubank Jr., which he's no longer doing, but he's still training Jermall Charlo. So he's, and a few other guys. So I think AJ would have to get in the range or in the same proximity as them in order for that to be successful. You know what I mean? And of course, again, Derrick James and Anthony Joshua didn't have beef. He just felt, hey, Ben Davison and having him training for this fight, or, that Ngannou fight, and the Otto Wallin fight was better for him based on convenience. But you got to ask yourself, what's better, quality or quantity? Quality. Quantity is the idea of, hey, well, someone's close to me, but is that the best person for you? Obviously not now. Because I never seen Ben aggressively instruct someone when he needs to instruct him. That's the mark of a true trainer. Okay. That shit that Derrick James, and I don't really care for Derrick James, but I know he's a true trainer because he does things and he works on fundamentals that'll keep you in the game, that'll keep you from getting your damn head knocked off like AJ got his knocked off or nearly knocked off that night in Wembley Stadium. You see what I mean? So, I think that's that with Roy. But you guys tell me what you think of Roy Jones Jr. stating that he should have stayed with me. I could have taught him so much, or he could have taught him so much. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.